Hey everybody, welcome to the newest episode of The Bearded Gamer Show. As always, I'm your host, The Bearded Gamer, Chris Arnone. And I must say, may the 4th be with you. It is Star Wars Day. I even decided to celebrate the fact by dressing up as a Wookiee. What? That's funny, that's hilarious, it's a great All right, fine. No Star Wars, let's talk comic books. Of course, Avengers comes out today. I'm very excited for this, as I think a lot of you are. So, how about for a very comic book themed controller confessional? So ramping up for the Avengers movie coming out, it started to make me think a lot about different comic book superhero movies that have come out throughout the years. There have been some good ones, there have been some really good ones, there have been some really bad ones throughout the years. So I'm going to go down my top 7. I know, I like prime numbers for some reason. 7 best and 7 worst superhero comic book movies of all time. Now, I'm saying that very specifically. So we're excluding non-comic book superhero movies like The Incredibles, and we're excluding non-superhero comic book movies like 300, Surrogates, Sin City, stuff like that. There's a lot of good and bad movies in that, but we're just sticking with the superhero since we're talking Avengers. Okay, so my number 7 worst superhero comic book movie of all time, Batman Forever. I mean, Jim Carrey, wow, really? I mean, that was horrendous. And, you know, Tommy Lee Jones completely overacted the part of Two-Face. It was just so bad Joel Schumacher, you know, what did you do? And Val Kilmer didn't help any at all either. So that, you know, that just sucked. He really started to suck the life out of the Batman franchise. But the number 7 best is Batman Begins. He come in with Christopher Nolan, who brought in Christian Bale and just a great cast of people to redo Batman. And he said, you know, Batman doesn't have superpowers, so he's tried to ground everything that Batman does in what could actually be in real life. And it's just worked superbly, plus, you know, great script. Everything about it's just been fantastic, and Batman Begins really kicked that one off. Number 6 worst, Wolverine Origins. And I got one word that says why it's so bad. Deadpool. You know, there are parts of that movie that are actually pretty cool. You know, specifically that scene right there where he gets up to the whole origin story with the adamantium. That's all pretty sweet. And Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, not a bad casting. You know, the talkative, quirky, sharpshooter kind of guy. But that weird thing they turned him into with like the teleporting, the Cyclops eye things, and the blades, and I don't know what the hell that was, but it was not Deadpool. And it just totally foobarred that movie right there at the end. But my number 6 best, Spider-Man 2. Now there's some contention here between the first and second Spider-Man movies, but personally I do like that second one better. The first one was a good origin story, but man, Doc Ock was just such a great villain for the second one, and I thought they got so much deeper into the relationship between Peter Parker and Mary Jane. You know, of course, they killed that franchise with the third one, and of course rebooting it now, but that second one was just, it was fantastic. It was sort of like the Godfather trilogy, where it peaked at number 2. That's what that Spider-Man 2 does for me. So number 5, worst, Superman Returns. He never throws a single punch. I mean, what would have been so wrong with maybe starting the movie with him coming back, fighting like Atomic Skull, or one of those other big bruiser villains that he fights? But no, it's this super cerebral movie where maybe he has a kid and he's a voyeur watching his ex-girlfriend living with her guy. It was creepy. And yeah, they didn't hold back on Superman's powers with the shot to the eye and him lifting a planet, which was also or an island, which was mostly made of kryptonite. Yeah, there's just so many issues with this movie. So here's hoping the new reboot they're going to do again for Superman does a lot better and makes it more action-oriented. Number 5 best, Superman 2. I know, keep coming back to Superman. General Zod. I mean, Terrence Stamp is General Zod. It was fantastic. The first Superman was good. The second Superman was so much better. You know, having those Phantom Zone people with General Zod, having a true villain for him to fight instead of just, you know, flying backwards around the world, just turn time back like he did in the first one, and the kiss that makes her forget stuff. Yeah, there was some weird stuff in that first one, and they really did away with that with the second one. And Christopher Reeves as Superman, spot on, perfect, and he was always that way, and it was true loss with that gentleman, but he was great in Superman, and as they always say, made us believe a man could fly. Fantastic. So, number 4 worst, Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. Now, the first Fantastic Four movie was actually pretty good. It did their origin story, but it kind of brought it up to speed, a little more sci-fi. It worked. The second one, it's Silver Surfer, which, okay, people don't readily buy into aliens and superhero movies, but then what really kills it, Galactus was a cloud. Now, I understand you probably can't make him a giant dude with pink and purple armor like he is in the comics. Okay, I get that. But he's a cloud? Really? No. That's not scary. He's supposed to be the world devourer. He's a force of nature that survived the Big Bang. You made him a cloud. So, how about that number 4 best? X-Men First Class. Now, I might be a little biased towards this one because my boy Havoc is in it, my favorite comic book superhero of all time. But I tell you what, the character examination between Professor X and Magneto and how that begins is just so wonderfully done. There's nothing about X-Men First Class that I don't like, and I cannot wait for them to move forward with this. At first I was a little like, oh, after X-Men 3, they're making another X-Men. I don't know about this, but really taking a step back, walking away for the most part from the continuity that they built in the first 3 movies, except of course for the wonderful, wonderful cameo by Hugh Jackman as Wolverine was phenomenal. And that just made it even better. So really, I just love that movie. Cannot wait for the next one. Number 3 worst, coming back to Superman. Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. I mean, really, once Richard Pryor entered into Superman, it went down the crapper. But then they introduced this nuclear man. This movie was just goofy. It was no longer about this, heroic guy. It was just stupid. It was like they were trying to make a slapstick comedy with a guy in tights. And that's pretty much all it turned out to be. And it's widely panned. It's considered one of the worst movies ever made, not just superhero movies. Steer clear from that one. Tell you what, watch the first 2 and then walk away from the whole series, okay? My number 3 best, however, is Watchmen. Now, there's some people are saying, oh, that's not really superhero, but for the layman, really, it is a superhero flick. Yes, the original Watchmen is not just about these superheroes and going through these traumas. It's also about the death of the golden age of comic books. It's about 1980s and Reaganism. It's about a lot of things, but it is also about these superheroes. And that film, this is one of the greatest comic book stories ever told, possibly one of the greatest stories ever told by Alan Moore, and a really, really faithful film rendition of that. And yes, they changed the ending, but sometimes you have to update things and change things so that people can better relate to them. And I think the ending they chose for the movie worked for our current, frame of mind. Maybe not for the people who read it and got a little angry, but for modern day audiences, I think it really worked and it spoke to people. And it had the same concept, and that's what's really important. So, number 2 worst superhero comic book movie of all time. Batman and Robin. Of course, I started with number 7, and I got to come to this one. Arnold Schwarzenegger, terrible. Bane, what the hell was that? George Clooney as Batman, you've got to be kidding. Alicia Silverstone should not be in movies. And they put nipples on the bat suit. Seriously, people. He put nipples on the bat suit. It's just wrong. Okay? And all the neon lights and crap. That's not Batman. I don't know what... I remember when I was a kid, before this movie came out, I thought, oh my God, George Clooney, his first line is going to be, "Hi, I'm Batman." I know what his first line is? "Hi, I'm Batman." I can't make that up. It's so bad. Okay, but my number 2 best comic book superhero movie of all time, Iron Man. I tell you what, they knocked it out of the park with this one, picking Robert Downey Jr. to play Tony Stark. And they haven't even gotten into the whole alcoholism thing, which I thought was part of what made it perfect. But Robert Downey Jr., he's just such a great actor. He can disappear into whatever part he steps into. And he really stepped into Tony Stark, this eccentric sort of Howard Hughes as a superhero kind of guy, but totally in the 21st century with all the crazy sort of futurist 21st century and beyond technology that they could pump into this movie. That's part of what made it awesome. Great script, great acting, everybody in it. You know, the second one didn't quite live up, but that first Iron Man was just great. So we get to my number ones, and you're going to have to wait for these. And now why do I say that? Well, I've got something to give away, okay? So, if you want to win this, Dark Avengers, first trade paperback, it's Dark Avengers Assemble, okay? Mint trade paperback, all right? Tells the story of Norman Osborn when he started his own sort of darker Avengers after the events of the Skrull invasion and the Civil War, when there was a lot of mistrust in the original Avengers and Iron Man. Dark Avengers Assemble. Okay, you have to correctly guess my number one best superhero movie of all time, comic book superhero movie of all time, and my number one worst. Both correct guesses must be made, and I will randomly pick a winner from those. Now, how do you win? Well, first, of course, throw down your answer in the comments of what my best and worst are, and subscribe to my channel. It's that easy, and you can win that pretty sweet trade paperback. I've read that story myself, and it's a good one. It'll get you hooked, and you'll want to read the rest of that Dark Avengers storyline. So, definitely throw down some answers. Tell me what you think my number ones are, huh? Can you really guess? I'll announce the winner on next week's show. See you next time.